if you're an expert in one thing, there's probably lots and lots of people like you.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're an expert at two things and how they interrelate, there's many fewer people, right? There'll be some people who are experts on one aspect of your expertise, some on the other, but there'll be very few people who are putting them together and leveraging them.
Welcome everyone to the TechGuide Podcast, where we give actual advice to those wanting to break into tech or are looking for their next gig. Today, we're talking with someone who's shaping the future of AI and helping others do the same. Professor Peter Stone is a leader in artificial intelligence and robotics, heading up the learning agent research groups at the University of Texas at Austin. He's also the chief scientist at Sony AI, which is so cool. And also co-founded a company along the way. Peter's passion for solving real-world problems with AI is matched by his commitment to guiding the next generation of innovators. Peter, I am so excited to have you on the episode today. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
It's going to be a great episode. You have the background of being a professor. You're also the chief scientist at Sony AI, which is such a huge organization. But I want to lay the foundation of who Dr. Professor Peter Stone is. If someone listening to this for the first time, how would you introduce yourself? Talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I am primarily a professor at the University of Texas. I've been fascinated by artificial intelligence for the past 30 years or so. When I was an undergrad, I was trying to figure out how could we figure out how the brain works or what intelligence really is. And so I took some neuroscience courses, some psychology courses, and but it was really the computer science courses that got me, made me feel like we were really trying to get somewhere in understanding intelligence. And so yeah, I'm a researcher trying to understand the nature of intelligence through computer science.
Oh man, you're going to be so good today, and you're going to be the great person to actually give us tips for undergraduates that do want to explore AI. I want to start there. If someone is an undergraduate and they're like, okay, I want a career in AI, what foundational skills or courses should they start to take while they're an undergraduate?
Well, I think it depends a lot, actually, on the objective. I mean, AI has sort of become a suitcase word. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. There's, the reason I got into AI and artificial intelligence was from the scientific perspective, to understand what is intelligence. And for people who want to, who that's what your objective is, I think it's really important to understand the history of artificial intelligence. It's not something. It's a field that's been active for 75 years now. The term was coined in the 1950s, and it's been through a lot of sort of phases of different types of paradigms. It may seem like today that there's it's all about neural networks, but really for somebody who wants to sort of understand what intelligence is all about, I think be broad. Learn about the history of artificial intelligence, different types of artificial intelligence. Learn about related fields like neuroscience and psychology and cognitive science, and really try to be as broad as possible. Now, if it's if the objective is to get a job in the high tech industry, and I don't care so much about intelligence, I want to be an AI programmer or something like that, then to be honest, it might be a more narrow sort of prospect of make sure you're up to date on the current tools. And it's more than about tool use and their capabilities, and maybe less about their inner workings and how to advance them. So it depends a lot on the objectives. Either way, though, I think one thing that's changed from the time when I was first learning about artificial intelligence is that it's really important now to be broad interdisciplinary wise, like not just the related fields, but also AI is having such a profound impact on our world, the societal implications. It's important to also be versed in the humanities, social science, ethics. All of those now have, unlike in the past, are now critical parts of AI education.
Yeah, I want to hit on a piece, what you started that conversation with, and that was the history part, because we're on episode, 82, 83, what is of tech. I know it's actually brought up the history of AI and why it's important to learn that. So I want to ask that question. I mean, why should students know the history of AI? Why is it valuable in their learning?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same reason it's valuable to learn the history of anything, right? If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat the failures, right? And there's a lot of lessons in history, and this moment in artificial intelligence is not the first time that we've had a hype cycle in artificial intelligence. The 1980s, there was a huge boom in artificial intelligence, and that's also not the only one from the past. And sort of learning why everybody got so excited, learning why it fizzled out, why it didn't meet expectations, and then how it recovered and what has happened since then. Those are, super important lessons to learn from, to sort of prepare us for what might happen now and how to proceed. And then also there are different approaches to artificial intelligence and algorithms, and if you don't learn history, you're doomed to sort of reinvent it. And so, people are rediscovering things now that have been known in the field for many years. And if only they would, had known the history, they could save themselves a lot of trouble. So I think it's really, it's there's a lot more to AI than ChatGPT or to large language models. And knowing that history, I think, is critical for the next generation of AI developers, researchers, leaders.
Yeah, I love it. There's so many ways that you can go with AI, developers, leaders, researchers. I mean, you just named 3 right there. I want to ask about choosing your path on what you just said. I mean, it can be a very broad field where you learn the psychology piece of it, the ethics piece of it, or it can be a very narrow field. So how would you advise, 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old student that's like, oh man, I want to do AI, but I don't know what path I want to go down?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the sort of cliche advice is follow your passion, right? Don't do what you think you should do because everybody else is doing it. Do what you think is you're excited about. If you're going to be pursuing something as a career, you want to be doing something that you love, and you don't want to be doing it just for the money or just for the career advancement. But you want to be, it's a luxury to enjoy your time at work, and you spend a large percentage of your waking hours during your life at work. So that and sleeping. So if it's, I think, really important to choose your expertise so that you're likely to enjoy your time at work. And so again, I don't think you can't. That's less likely to happen if you are doing what somebody else thinks you should do. You want to develop your own taste, and it's actually, I think, more powerful to be doing something unique, right? If you're doing something, it's hard to stand out in the crowd if you're doing what everybody else is doing. So one piece of advice I give to my graduate students, or to really anybody who's trying to carve out a space for themselves, is if you're an expert in one thing, there's probably lots and lots of people like you.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're an expert at 2 things and how they interrelate, there's many fewer people, right? There'll be some people who are experts on one aspect of your expertise, some on the other, but there'll be very few people who are putting them together and leveraging them. And I think so, whether that's whole fields, right, like AI and neuroscience, or AI and ethics, or AI and social science or something, or if it's just 2 aspects within a field, neural networks and reinforcement learning, or symbolic reasoning and probabilistic reasoning. I mean, there's many different sub areas, and find the ones that you're most passionate about, but then also look for more than one and look for their connections.
Yeah, I think that is a phenomenal advice, and you really hit that on the head. There might be thousands of people that are good at this one thing, but if you combine another expert subject with that, I mean, the talent pool becomes much, much less as well. Specifically, to the AI space, I'd love to keep going down that thread, because I think that's great advice there. I mean, what are some common things that you can specialize in, and what are some things people should think about of adding to their skill set?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rapidly shifting area. So like I said, there are many tools, and they keep changing. The dominant paradigm right now is neural networks and generative AI, large language models. And so specializing in learning how they're trained, how they work, how they're pre-trained, how they're fine-tuned, and each of these is sort of becoming specialty areas. The pre-training of them, the fine-tuning of them, the deployment of them, the prompt engineering, all of these things are sort of areas of specialty, but they're going to keep changing, right? So as in any aspect of education these days, the most important thing is to learn how to learn, because it's very unlikely that anything you know now is going to, or you train on now is going to remain relevant for your whole career. So it's important to develop an ability and a habit of refreshing and keeping current. But I think so there is that specialty, but there are many different areas of artificial intelligence, and there's specializing in robotics, which is itself cross-disciplinary. I'm the director of Texas Robotics, which includes faculty from computer science, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, aerospace engineering, and each of those fields or disciplines brings a unique aspect to robotics. So the AI side of robotics is intelligent robotics, and how can you use in one of the big questions now is how can you use generative AI to improve robotics? But there's much more to learn about robotics there as well. Yeah, so there's many different sub areas. There's natural language processing, there's computer vision, there's sort of the application areas, and then there's the technique areas.
Yeah, I think that's what's like so cool about AI is it is such a broad field and such like an emerging field where it's hard to not be excited about the opportunities there. One of the opportunities that comes with AI is like research. So what advice would you give to undergraduate students seeking research groups or labs like the Learning Agents Research Group that you with?
Yeah, so I mean, research is fundamentally about uncovering new knowledge, and that's that's really for the people who are not there to just go get a job in a big company, but rather to pursue a passion and trying to find the next big thing to contribute to humanity's knowledge. And the path towards a career in research is to get a PhD. That's what in some sense a PhD is a license to do research, right? There's driver's licenses. A PhD is a research license. It's something that certifies that you have that training. And so the path from that is sometimes people get a master's degree first and then go on to a PhD. Sometimes people go straight from undergrad to a PhD, and it's a commitment. It's a time commitment. To get a PhD in computer science is on average about 6.5 years of work after doing your undergrad, which involves becoming sort of an expert in something and eventually writing a dissertation that contributes some new nugget of knowledge. But then afterwards, people with a PhD will sometimes go to become faculty members, like myself, become professors. Sometimes they'll go to research labs at big companies that hire people with PhDs to uncover knowledge. But it's so that's the if you want to get into research, you can get into research as an undergrad, and that's sort of a good ticket to getting admitted to a good PhD program, is to start dipping your toe while you're in undergrad, or if you didn't do it while you were in undergrad, then to go onto a master's degree and perhaps get involved in research with somebody there. But that sort of gives you the first taste, and then it eventually it helps you get admitted to a PhD program where you sort of double down on it and really focus on one on some area of expertise where you're going to become hopefully the world expert.
Yeah, I think that is such good advice. Like research fundamentally is like discovering new knowledge. I think that's a great way to put it. I want to ask, you said if you're an undergraduate and you get a research opportunity, it's basically a good ticket to like a good PhD program here. I mean, when students are identifying like research opportunities, I'd love to hear like how do you stand out in that process and like what that process looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's different ways, but really it's connecting with a particular faculty member, a PI, which stands for principal investigator, somebody who's doing research. Often they will connect you with a graduate student, a PhD student in their lab, because part of what we do to train PhD students is train them how to mentor undergrads. Which so you can get connected with a postdoc or a PhD student, or sometimes directly with a professor, and they'll sort of you can sort of contribute to some paper or article that they're writing, which and every paper or article that gets published has some nugget of knowledge, and so you look for some way that you can contribute to that process, and you learn about it. So the first step is really figuring out what you want to do research in. And is it artificial intelligence? Is it neuroscience? Is it psychology? Is it architecture? Whatever. First your field, and then at the university you're at, you maybe go to some of the the home pages of the faculty members in that department, and look and see, oh, that one's, maybe read one of their papers or look at the blurb on their website about what they're interested in, and then pick a couple and see, and ask them, can I work with you? Can I learn what you're up to? I'm interested in doing research. And it's important to remember that faculty are very busy, so if you just send them an email out of the blue, they may not immediately respond or may not respond at all. Sometimes you need to be persistent. You send an email, or you find out when they have office hours and knock on their door, introduce yourself. You might have to do it a couple of times, and then either you find they have a project directly for you, or they connect you with one of their postdocs or students, and hopefully you can be off to the races then. And then you can start joining lab meetings, meeting new people, and then they should, if you have a good research relationship with them, they should help you with your applications to graduate school and figuring out where you want to go.
Yeah. Key part of that is have a good relationship with them. And we could have I'm sure a whole podcast on having a good relationship with them, but that was an amazing breakdown of that. I want to talk about another opportunity that you are well aware of, and that's the online program at UT Texas. I'd love to hear more about that for people that are listening, because UT Texas is obviously, UT Austin, I should say, is obviously a phenomenal school here.
Yeah. So one thing that we've done recently, myself and colleagues here at UT Austin, is pioneered an online master's degree in actually in 3 different areas: one in computer science, one in data science, and one in artificial intelligence. They have overlap, so some of the courses are the same in each of those, but you can get an online master's degree, and it's actually indistinguishable from a master's degree, an on-campus master's degree. So it's a master's degree from the University of Texas at Austin in AI, in data science, or in computer science. It's we've worked really hard to make it affordable. So it's at a price tag of $10,000. So each one of them, you have to take 10 courses. The courses are $1,000 each. Nice. They are synchronous courses, so you take them during the semester with a cohort of students who are all going through it together. Often the classes have have hundreds of students in them, and then sort of online discussion communities, everybody working on the material at the same time, interacting with TAs.
That's awesome.
And so it's the kind of thing you can do full time, or you can do while you're working. So some people and sometimes take 1 or 2 courses at a time while they're working, just doing it in the evenings. It's designed to be sort of compatible with that. And you just, once you get through your 10 courses, you get the master's degree. And so that's something where, one of the advantages is that it scales up. So when we can really admit as many students into that program as are qualified. Whereas if you apply to an on-campus master's, there's usually a capacity. You're competing with other students, and the best few students will get admitted to the program. With this online master's, you're just competing against yourself. If you have the credentials, you will get admitted. It's not whether you're better or worse than the other students.
Oh, that is so cool. So I heard 10 courses here, all about $1,000 each, which is very affordable, which is awesome. Can you highlight a little bit more of what those 10 courses are? I'd love this to be a resource for people listening.
Yeah. So I mean, you can find them on online if you look at the online master's sites. I teach the online course on reinforcement learning, and that is a course in all 3 of the degree programs. So whichever one you take, you can enroll in the reinforcement learning course as one of them. There's a machine learning course. There's a computer vision course. I think those are in all of the programs. But then I think in the Masters of AI, there's an AI ethics course that's required. In the computer science online, the Masters of Computer Science, there's some theory courses and systems courses that are sort of broader computer science that those aren't required for the data science or the artificial intelligence ones. I think the AI one also has a planning and scheduling course. So it's each of them has different course offerings, and so depending on whether you want a focus in AI, a focus in data science, or the broad computer science expertise. There's sort of a set of courses that you can choose from.
Yeah. Peter, I absolutely love that. It's one thing to get a program, and thank you for highlighting that. It's another thing to get that research experience, but it's also another thing to get hands-on experience. What are some ways undergraduate students within this program, or just honestly in general, should find ways to get these hands-on experiences when it comes to AI as a broad here?
Yeah, and so one of the things that many students do, both as undergrads and as master's and PhD students, is internships in industry. So that's a great way to get hands-on experience. You connect with a particular industrial research group and come on for a summer or for 6 months or something. That tends to be hands-on. And then the online master's program, like it ends, and as I said, in undergrad, like, getting some research experience, that's hands-on as well. And so, when you're a master's student, or an undergrad, getting connected with a lab, and you can either, often you can do that for credit. Like there's, most universities have, so in our online master's program, for example, you can get one of those 10 courses can be an independent study. And even I think there is a path towards a master's thesis, which then can be count for 2 of those courses. I don't remember the details exactly, but and that's usually true for undergrads as well. You can get when you're doing that research, sometimes you can get paid for it as sort of a research assistant, or sometimes you can get course credit for it, and to carve out some time in your schedule to devote to it. So those are great ways to get hands-on experience as well.
Yeah. And like when you're applying for jobs, I mean, if someone like, I want you to put your chief scientist like hat on at Sony AI. I mean, if you're looking at applications right now for an entry level role for someone to get their first job in AI, I mean, like, what are some things that you would specifically look for?
Yeah, for that, we look for, I mean, it depends what role they're interviewing for.
Of course.
I mean, we have roles that are specifically for people with PhDs, and then we look for research experience and the ability to, communicate well and to have made a contribution. But we also have AI engineer roles that are, more like, people who have really good programming skills, that, familiarity with large enterprise tools, that know how to use, sort of GitHub, that know how to use Docker, that know how to use a lot of the sort of tools that people use in big teams, and maybe having had some experience by doing an internship, or because the lab you were working at used these tools. But frankly, we also just look for evidence that the person's a quick learner, because like I said, the things that we're focusing on now are not the same things that we're going to be focusing on in a few years. And if you're going to have a career in a company, you need to be able to refresh yourself. You need to be able to learn quickly. And if you're wedded to one programming language and you're never going to be able to learn another one, that's going to be a problem.
How do you identify if someone is a quick learner?
I mean, some of that is through letters of recommendation. Some of that is through the interview itself. There's and just can people solve problems on the fly, think fast on their feet. We look for many different ways of collecting evidence. And the interview process and the application process, it's sort of it's holistic. We get lots of different pieces of evidence, and then it's a judgment call. But the letters of recommendation can often be key. Like if you've demonstrated skills for, again, that's another reason to do research in a lab. It's a lot easier for somebody who's a graduate student or a professor who's worked with you and can say, or an intern, an internship, somebody who's observed you ramping up, learning something new, contributing to a team. That's can write a much stronger letter than somebody who's just had you in a class.
Nice. I also love it. Peter, we had talked about like so much during this episode, from like research to internship to programs offered. As we wind down here, I just want to ask you one more question. Just general advice for undergraduate students. If like, man, I need to inspire someone or give them one more piece of actionable insights, what would you give them?
I mean, I just, I said it before, but I think, follow your passion. And that's very cliche, I know. But again, you're each individuals, and, you should be doing what you think is important. Learn, be curious, learn what's out there, develop your own judgment as to, what's going to be important in the world, what's going to be important to you, and then do it because you believe in it, not because someone else is telling you to.
Nice. Peter, you have been the absolute man. Thank you so much for joining us. Someone's like, oh my gosh, I need to learn more about Peter and I need to ask him a few questions. Where can people learn more about you and connect with you?
It's really easy to find me online. Peter Stone, UT Austin. I've got a webpage. I've got lots of information on my page about me, about my research. I've got lots of online lectures there. All my courses are there. So, and my email address is there. So, just follow, do what you would normally do. Use Google.
Awesome. Peter, thank you so much for being here today.
All right. My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.